with Mike Flanagan, I understand that many of you in one form or another have worked with him before. So if we could like start down the line, like have you guys exchanged notes of like what you like most about working with him, or is it different for each of you what that thing is?
Michaelis was your first, right?
I just really thought it was a good sign that people wanted to come back to working with him again. It was my first time, and I get it. It's fun.
Henry and I worked with him before together, and I don't know. We never exchanged notes. And Carla, you know,
Yeah.
For me, it was about his passion for the characters, and that I just felt very seen by him as an actress. I felt like he understood what I cared about, and that just is a really. You know, I'm just incredibly grateful to have the opportunity to play Shirley, to have played Shirley.
Yeah, I think I think it's interesting. I think that the relationship between actor and director is such a personal one that I'm sure there are some very similar things that we could all say, but it is such a unique experience. And one of the things that I would say that I find noticeable about him as a director is that he will always want the deeper choice. Like he will always choose to excavate further. You know, he's a director who has his visuals are very clear. He has an idea of what he wants the whole piece to be, and then he really does allow the actor to fill it, and fill it as much as you're willing to fill it. And certainly in this particular genre, it's like a wonderful place to be able to have heightened elements to really explore what it is to be human, which is many things. And so I guess I love that about him, is that he is really interested in humanity.
Yeah, I mean, after meeting Mike the first time, I went to his office, and I met also Michael Famignari, who was our director of photography. And I sat down in this strange room that was kind of pasted with all of these images, and there was this big binder full of things. I said, well, what is all this stuff, you know? And he said, oh, well, you know, we're compiling all of the shots, and we've shot listed the entire film. And we were like 6 to 8 weeks out from production, and I just thought, this is crazy. Or who do these guys think they are? Because by the time we get to shooting, all of this will get thrown out, and then, you know, we'll have to. But it's that meticulous kind of preparation, attention to detail, and at the same time, it's not so overbearing that he's some kind of, you know, extreme type A person that doesn't allow for any input or anything like that. Everybody's idea counts. And you said it best, so the best idea wins. Working with somebody like that, it makes you feel like you're sitting at the table and you're not an employee. And in an industry in a profession where we're often not in very much control of what we're allowed to do or what we're allowed to bring to the table, it's very refreshing to work with somebody who is genuinely enthused to be there and to be working with actors. I mean, and also, you know, it's like the old joke where, you know, actors are kind of like, or older actors like myself are kind of like maybe like the last prostitute in the saloon.
I know.
It's like the last prostitute in the saloon. Like, you don't really get thrilled about it anymore, but you're flattered somebody asked you.
As the young prostitute in the saloon. I think yes to everything that my cast member friends have said, but I think we are in a golden age of TV and film where there are tons of talented directors working. But what Mike Flanagan has is that he's a natural leader. And so he engenders all of this loyalty from his crew and from his cast, and they love coming back and working with him. And so there's a real feeling of camaraderie and safety in the room. And for me, that is both special and rare and should be protected. And I think the more you work with Mike Flanagan, the more you become a part of the group of people who protect the Mike Flanagan kind of traveling circus. And it's a traveling circus. And there are jokes, and there are long-running jokes that go back to Ouija, that go to all the way back to Absentia, before he was shooting on anything other than his own, cameras at home. And that is a really special experience in a world where you can feel very replaceable.
I feel like everyone's kind of covered quite a lot of it. I'm new to the Mike Flanagan. The two of us, we're new to this, to joining this kind of Flanagan family, and McKeel. But I think that what Mike does very, very well is he creates and writes characters that you wouldn't, that are so kind of honest and so well thought out, and the amount of heart that he puts into not only his movies and especially this show, he puts them into these characters, and you can feel it on the page. And I think that definitely for me as an actor, it was kind of a no-brainer of, I actually wasn't necessarily familiar with Mike before the script came along. But you can see it in his work that there's so much care, and so much detail, and so much love. And as Carla was saying, he focuses on the human aspect of and it's something kind of universal in that. And so I was very kind of excited to work.
Yeah, this wasn't just like my first time working with Mike Flanagan. This was my first professional job at all, and I think that I was incredibly lucky to have my first experience working on a set with these people, Mike and the crew, who were so willing to help with my ignorance, at certain moments, and beyond that, actually trusting me, not much reason to. I don't know what I'm doing, but but he trusts me, and not only that, encouraged my input. And what you were saying, he cares so much about these characters. He cares about them in the way we do.
Yeah.
And so it's not a fight. It is about, it's always about, how do we go deeper? How do we draw out this moment the right way? And so that's really exciting, because so much of playing a character is advocating on their behalf, and I felt like I always felt supported and encouraged, and the fact that he cared about Nell as much as I do is very, very special. Yeah, and I feel really lucky. Spoiled, maybe.
I'm curious if any of you are closely familiar with either the book or the previous adaptations, and if so, what makes this adaptation special or different from the other ones?
Well, I think we all became familiar with the book if we weren't when it started. And again, what Mike Flanagan has done, which is very interesting, as a fan of the novel, as a fan of the Robert Wise adaptation, as a fan of the genre, he is going to take these themes and these concepts and a lot of the colors you will see in Shirley Jackson's novel, and then he kind of shatters it and gives you a brand new lens, a more modern lens of family and grief and trauma to experience it through. For diehard fans of the book, you will find language from the book in there, characters that you are going to recognize in a different way. For fans of the Robert Wise movie, you will find homages to shots, and all of those are intentional and purposeful because he's the creator of something and also a fan of the same thing he creates.
But I think that's also what's interesting about, we're living in a world that like remakes and sequels and prequels are such a kind of a known thing now. And what Mike hasn't done with this is what he has done is that he's treated the text and the book with such respect And so what ends up is he's not trying to remake the book, he's not trying to remake the Robert Wise, he's trying to take this source material, treat it with the biggest amount of respect and update it for a new generation. And so there's something quite exciting in that he's not, I feel the original book and the the novel is I guess it's just treated with respect.
You know, I think like an actor, you don't ever want to do an imitation of a person. If you're playing a real person, you want to be able to, because people can watch the real person. Shirley Jackson wrote a phenomenal novel that will, you know, it was just an extraordinary thing at that moment, and her history, her personal history, all of that informed that novel to such a great extent. And then Robert Wise made such a beautiful film, and I think that what we are all as artists is sort of, it is what lens do you see the world through? What story do you want to tell? What way in do you want to come at it? And what's one of the things I love about Comic-Con is that it is fans, and that, you know, it's about people who are incredibly passionate about what they believe in, and we are all fans and geeks for whatever we're fans and geeks of. And there is this really incredible, and it's not to say that he couldn't direct many other genres, and I'm sure he will, but he has this beautiful ability to tap into this particular genre like no other filmmaker that I know. And I think that what is beautiful about this is, and this has been just said, but I will say it again because there's such respect given to the source material, and in particular to the Robert Wise film as well visually, but then it just runs. Yeah. It runs and it takes you places you least expect.
In regards to making a horror series, I was wondering what elements of this story in particular do you guys find most unnerving or fun to play with as actors?
The horror elements in particular were you asking about? Yeah.
I find the psychological elements the most fun or interesting, and the most terrifying for me, I think, is the stuff that goes on in one's brain. And there are things in this, for Shirley, for my character, that she's haunted by and spends her life trying to escape. And ideas and images and memories, and that to me was really kind of scary and fun to explore.
For me, it was really working with Oliver.
Oliver, care to comment?
I got nothing on that.
That's just horror right there.
That's horror. Terror.
Robert Kurtzman does a great job of creating ghosts, and so it's always a joy to watch them walk out of the makeup trailer and be like, "What? That's crazy!" And I'd say for me that was like every time the effects trailer door would open, it was like Christmas. The basement ghost is coming out, and you're like, that's the most creative way I've ever seen of dealing with a traditional scary thing in the basement. Or the tall man who just hovers. Like, what a unique and cool way to deal with a common trope of being followed. And so, as an actor, I didn't get to work with a lot of the scary ghosts, but I got to follow them around set and beg them to hang out with me, and that was great.
And I guess, I know that Mike has spoken a lot about really articulately the notion of horror in 10 hours versus horror in an hour and a half, where you're, beholden to a 3-act structure and you have different set of circumstances. But I think that what I didn't realize was acting in something horrific, for this period of time is a really interesting thing, because a lot of us came and went, because as you'll see in the episodes, each episode sort of circulates around a particular character and their experience of it. So I had one of the most challenging experiences of having it on the back burner for all those months that I wasn't working, and for all those time periods because you can't really let it go, and we all were exploring really intense material, and so that was a challenge I hadn't expected, to just sustain it for that amount of time and sort of be ready to jump in when you needed to. But I think for the first month and a half, I think I did, I think I screamed once, and I think I walked past a hallway once, and then sort of the meat of my stuff, exactly, came. So that was an artistic challenge that I hadn't really anticipated with material where you're sort of living with something that is intense.
Yeah, and and it was really, it was a full-time job to keep track of the timelines, because there's two different
Yeah, for
timelines,
sure.
and trying to keep track of where these characters are in the story at a particular time over this long form was challenging.
Shout out to script supervisor Andrea Manners,
Yeah.
who constantly would be able to answer the question, where am I? What
We
am I
did
doing?
really
Day
have a
6.
supersonic.
Yeah. Day 6, 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Boston. Yeah.
Back to what you were saying, so the ghosts are created with live action and prosthetics and not with CGI?
Yeah.
There's very I think there's very, very little CGI.
Yeah, a
in the
lot
show.
was done practically.
Yeah, there's only the VR things were usually like safety precautions, right? Because without giving anything away, there's some things go bad in the house, and there's some broken glass and shattered windows and such, and it was just it was unsafe to do it physically, to do a physical gag. So that's where the VR came in.
Yeah, a lot of the magic tricks in the show that seemed like it could not have possibly happened practically.
Yeah.
There's they've got there's this one ghost who's he's called the bowler hat man, and he's very tall, and you mentioned, and he hovers over the floor, and all of that is done in real tools.
Yes.
It's
Wire.
all wires and these rigs that they create. So it's kind of it's forcing filmmakers to be creative and to be, and I think it's ultimately way more scary.
There was always an old school way to do these things before we could do them so easily in post, and so it is. I think there's something energetically that affects you differently when you're watching something like that, as opposed to an effect that you know is an effect.
Yeah.
And that's really when
For sure.
Mike Flanagan and Michael Fimignari, the DP, would turn into the little boy versions of themselves. They just had so much fun making creative solutions to these monsters.
All right, last question.
The kids aren't here, obviously, but now that you mentioned about there's not really CGI, how did that affect, there's some pretty terrifying scenes.
Yeah.
How did that affect the way that you worked with children on the set when they were possibly being terrified?
Well, those kids are pros.
Those
me
kids
say.
were auditioning for other roles in between shots. You know?
No, they were really. There's a scene that I feel that I can.
though.
Yeah,
They
it
were.
really-
They were putting
really
themselves
were.
on tape on their iPads. You know?
But no, I was really concerned about that going in, even though, and also I will say, Mike is great with kids, and so they always were made to feel very comfortable. And we also had an extraordinary all-female AD team that was they are just incredible, and they really were just absolutely exceptional, and also just took such good care of all of us, but also the kids, and dogs were running around, and I mean, it was a crazy, great environment in that way for the kids. But I will say, because it's in the trailer, so I feel that I can say this, the scene where I'm talking to the two kids in bed and they're talking about this horrible dream, and would I wake them from it? Would Olivia wake them from it? I was so worried about shooting that scene with them and having them have to say all of that. And when we were actually in rehearsal, Michael Fimignari, our director of photography, who's very stoic, extraordinary DP, very, very, I saw tears streaming down his eyes, and I thought, oh gosh, what are we going to do? How are they going to do this? And the kids were just like, hey, hot chocolate? I mean, it was truly like, and yet they are fantastic in the scene.
Yeah.
So I think somehow, they fit, they're going to be okay.
Yeah, don't worry about those guys.
All right, thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you so much,
Thanks
guys.
very much.